Alright, I'm going to jump in. I don't know if this microphone's on, but I think you guys can hear my voice probably, right? So I'm just going to really quickly talk about a few mobile and social things that I find interesting, briefly talk about my work, and then a couple opportunities or questions that I think are interesting to explore. So let's dive in with the mobile social stuff. How many of you have seen Triple, this application recently? They just relaunched a new application and pivoted. Well, basically the way it works is you connect your existing accounts on Foursquare, Facebook, Twitter, TripIt. Have any of you used TripIt? It's like your personal travel assistant. You forward your emailed itineraries, your confirmations, like United Airlines, and it just basically create an itinerary for you. So you go to the app and it tells you what's your flight confirmation, what flight you're on, and all that stuff. But anyways, you link all those things to Triple, and what Triple does is when you check into a location, when you share a photo from a location, when you add a status update from a location, they pull those together, and then when I launch the Triple app, I can see my friend, Bob is in New York, Jerry's in Germany, Larry's in Florida, and it basically creates a travel log, so I can just experience kind of the locales and the people that I know are exploring and visiting. So it becomes almost like a travel guide that's created on the fly by the activity of your social group. So I thought it was a fun way to kind of mesh the mobile aspect of it. Here I am around the world, and the social aspect of seeing where your friends are and learning about places. How many of you have used LocalMind or heard of LocalMind? It's a pretty cool application where it's built on Foursquare, so when you check into a location, people can send you questions. So the way I've used it in the past is I've checked into a restaurant and someone notified me with a question saying, hey, what are the specials of today? So it's basically leveraging the fact that you're at these places, you improve that by checking into the place, and then people can use the fact that you're there to ask questions. What's the special of the day? Is the bar crowded? Or how long is the wait to get in here? And that sort of stuff. So you're really using the fact that you're out and about, and these people in the community become kind of like your reconnaissance team. So I thought that was a really cool concept. And then kind of building off of that, this app called Gigwalk, as that kind of builds on top of that, it actually gives you paid gigs. So if you want to do a field audit, so a brand might say, hey, go to the Radio Shack and take photos of the Amazon Kindle. And if you do that, you submit it and we verify that content, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. In this example, the user is being asked to verify a blocked road. So they'll go there, take a photograph, get $4 for doing that. You can fill out surveys, you can get tasks to go do photography, and that sort of stuff. And it's different from LocalMind in the sense that it's actually paying you and adding some sort of like monetization component to it, so it's worth it for you, or trying to make it worth it for you to do it. It's slightly different than TaskRabbit. I'm sure most of you have heard of TaskRabbit, where you just farm out tasks to people. TaskRabbit has a variety of tasks that you can participate in. Help someone build their IKEA furniture, help them water their lawn, that sort of stuff. It doesn't really require you to be mobile or use a mobile application. The way I see the difference between Gigwalk and TaskRabbit is with Gigwalk, oftentimes the majority of the tasks are having you use your mobile device, like take a photograph of this or confirm this, and so it becomes more of a mobile-focused version of like farming out these tasks. And then just kind of moving away from the fun and kind of like productivity stuff, things like mWater, which allow you to kind of record and where specific water sources are, and then add water checks so you can see the quality of water. So in this map over here, you can see by this legend over here, it's pretty hard to read, but if it's blue, E. coli presence in the water is less than 1 per 100 milliliters, and then red is over 1,000 per 100 milliliters. So it's just kind of a way to report where water sources are, but also report the quality of that. So there's kind of this mobile farmed out reporting process. So let me talk about my work and how this fits into kind of this mobile social realm. So I started a company called Network Organisms. It's this little software company that's trying to help people reconnect with the natural world. And we launched this project called Project Noah. We're backed by National Geographic. We work at a National Geographic office. And basically what we try to do is turn your mobile device into a digital butterfly. So on top of the fact that you can collect your observations and get the community to help you identify them, we're providing a crowdsourced field guide. That means when I launch the app in Central Park or I launch it in the Grand Canyon, you can see all the wildlife that people have seen in that location. So based on your locale, we'll show you the wildlife that's in physical proximity to you. And then on top of that, we have this global community that does everything from helping you identify species to putting calls to action in the form of missions. So this is what the application looks like. It's really simple. You have kind of your dashboard. You have missions. That's kind of the social aspect of it. So these are specific tasks that you have to go out and do. Some are for fun. Hey, document birds of the world. Others are in collaboration with the Center for Snake Conservation for sharing snake observations. we work with an organization called National Moth Week to launch Moth Week, which is like Shark Week for moths. And they're interested in kind of dispelling some of the misconceptions around moths, but also getting people to pay more attention to the beautiful diversity of moths on this planet. And the field guide, as I mentioned, is based on your location. We'll show you all the wildlife that's been seen and documented around you. And then we have a web component, very similar to like a Twitter feed or your Facebook news stream. You see content, when people submit observations, when people request a species ID, when people suggest a species ID, all that stuff comes into you as it hits the system. Let me show you how this works in action. This is a photograph I took in Costa Rica about a year ago. Obviously a really crazy, wild-looking grasshopper. I had no idea what it was, but it was actually quite interesting. Submitted it to Project NOAA, and you can see when I submitted, I added a couple photos, add location, I categorized it on the top left. There's a little icon that represents arthropods, which are land-based invertebrates. And then I gave it a little description, and I added, later on I added a reference. But what happened was, as soon as I sent it in, a couple people over the course of a few days suggested species ID. I had no idea what this grasshopper was. So a guy up top, Ashish Nimkar, suggested the species ID of a giant red-winged grasshopper. The person below, Eulalia Rubio, suggested the species ID of the zebra grasshopper. And to the right of that, you can see a +5 and a +1. That means 4 additional people had agreed with Ashish's recommendation. So I clicked on that. It turned out that it actually was the nymph stage of that giant red-winged grasshopper. And so when I found out that confirmation, I looked in the Project NOAA database for that specific species. This is it. It's the largest grasshopper in Central America, and I had no idea. This was the nymph stage of it. And this thing is about 12, it's almost a foot long. And the guy who photographed it, when it flew into his little cabin, he thought it was a bird. That's how big it was. And so to pause for a second, so I was in Costa Rica, I lived in New York, I was in Costa Rica, I submitted the photo to Project NOAA. A guy from India and a woman from Spain helped me identify it, and the photograph of the adult form was submitted by a guy from Costa Rica. So you see how the global connection works. And then, that's kind of in the fun, personal exploration type of realm. So really quickly, this example here is, this bug right here is called the sharpshooter, and this is the genus and species down here. It was taken by a woman in San Diego, in Escondido actually, in her backyard, beautiful, kind of interesting looking, colorful insects, submitted to Project NOAA, trying to get help on identification. And everyone was kind of referring to these field guides and whatnot. And this particular bug, people thought they identified it, but it was way out of its range, its known range. So like, well, we think it's this bug, but this bug doesn't go so far west of California and San Diego. So we escalated and brought in some folks. Cindy, the lady who submitted, shared it with the folks at Bug Guide, which is like a whole community dedicated to identifying bugs. And then we got confirmation from them. This is the first observation, known recorded observation of this insect west of the state of Texas. And so Cindy, just a mom in San Diego, photographed this in her backyard. Right? So being able to share that and connecting with this group of experts is what allowed her to kind of make that breakthrough. This is the notion of citizen science. And so kind of wrapping up here, where does this all go? What are some interesting possibilities and directions and questions? Oftentimes when you hear like mobile versus social, the mobile part really just means like, hey, I can do it on the go. But it doesn't really leverage the fact that you're at a specific location. What we're trying to do is that, with Project NOAA, the experience you have is totally dependent upon where you launch the app. What wildlife you see around you is based on where you actually launch the application. And so I think when we talk about mobile social, the mobile should really leverage the fact that you're at a specific location. That's what's great about local mind. That's what's great about gig walk and that sort of stuff. And the social aspect of it is, it's for me, kind of the way I kind of define it is it's a combination of collaboration and communication. So I can work with people for a specific task or for whatever reason, but I can also easily communicate with those people. And then one of the challenges with mobile and social is obviously bridging communities and skill sets. So in our community, we have people who have never submitted a wildlife observation report. They have no idea what the genus and species of something is, and you have people who have been studying insects for like 30 years. So how do we create a channel in which they can communicate and benefit each other? I have to make it worthwhile for the experts to participate, but I also have to make it engaging and fun for the lay people to participate as well. So how do you bridge those communities and their varying skill sets? And then the other thing that I find quite interesting here is kind of touching on the educational aspects of this. Is if you look at before YouTube and this kind of personal broadcasting of people took place, you had these kind of broadcasters and you had these watchers, right? In education, I've seen the same thing. It's a model where you have a few teachers who are broadcasting out to lots of students. But now, the same way with YouTube is like not everyone is not only a content consumer, they're actually a content creator now. And how do we work in a world where students are not only students, but they're also potentially teachers? And I think that's something that's really powerful and revolutionary. And what I'm interested in seeing is how applications, communities, technology can be used to make that really powerful and useful for the masses. So that's all I had for today, and I'm sure we'll talk some more afterwards. Thanks a lot.